Welcome to Globespan 24x7. I'm your host and moderator, Vishnu Bisram. This program is owned and operated by Mr. Nohar Singh. With us tonight is Techie Devinder Soon. We are discussing tonight investment opportunities and the budget in Guyana. With us is a special guest, no stranger to this program, Dr. Peter Ramsaroop, Chief Investment Officer, Chief Executive Officer of Go Invest, Global Investment Opportunities for Guyana under the Office of the President. Welcome, Dr. Peter Ramsaroop, to tonight's edition of Globespan 24/7. Thank you. Thank you for taking your time out of your very, very busy schedule. I have a number of questions for you. Before we begin, I was wondering whether you could give us a brief summary of your tasks, responsibilities, duties, and generally what Go Invest does.
So the Guyana Offer Investment, as you mentioned, is under the Office of the President. It's a government agency designed by law to facilitate both foreign and local investments into the country. We look at both promoting Guyana to the right world to our local private sector and facilitate investment in certain priority sectors. There are certain fiscal incentives also that our agency is authorized to recommend to companies. For example, if we are looking for the hospitality sector to improve or increase, there are special incentives that we can offer for companies, both local and companies, to come in. So fiscal incentives. So the agency has a broad mandate, and we also look at export our products out of Guyana, how we can promote our products in other parts of the world. So it's a multi-function agency working again, Office of the President, as a government agency.
Oh, so you don't you're not only in charge of encouraging investment in Guyana, but also encouraging trade export out of Guyana.
Yes.
So it's so I was just wondering, just talk about the investment landscape in general in Guyana at the moment.
Well, I mean, Guyana, as you know, and the world knows, we are an economy that is standing out within the region. Our president Belize today, with heads of government, he's talking a lot about agriculture and how Guyana can support CARICOM, and I'll talk about that a little later. But our investment climate is right. We have a stable democracy. Today, 2nd of March, 2 years ago, our administration won an election. We proved to the world that Guyana believes in democracy. We stood up for our fight, and the Western world and a lot of other parts of the world realized that, our government believes in democracy. We believe in transparency. We believe in accountability. We have a strong macro financial system run under Dr. Ashley Singh. We are a strategic location. We're 4 or 5 hours from the United States. We are within the CARICOM region. We are in South America, and we have water access that can have larger ports. So very resource-rich country. We have, bauxite, gold, oil, and as we look at what attracts an investor is all of those components put together: a good commercial court system. So, and a very strong entity, private sector, that is stepped up. And so as companies come into Guyana, they look for those macro stable economic environment, and Guyana stands out, not as an oil producing country only, but a country with leadership, president with courage of his conviction, understands where we fit in the global wider world, and is ready to lead, and is leading Guyana in that growth trajectory. And as you know, this year budget, for example, was the largest budget in Guyana history. We have an economic growth in double digits this year, close to 43+% growth. Last year was 19%. The year before was 40+%. We are on a trajectory that no other country in the world is at today. And as you look at where both our inputs and our outputs are coming together, we stand above the other countries within CARICOM and really will be a leading nation in South.
Um, um, Guyana also has a new airport and expanded runway as well that can now accommodate very big jets. So flights can come in from all parts of the world now into Guyana. Whereas in the past, we could only accommodate small jets in that mini runway that we had.
Well, we're expanding quite a bit. We can have the largest plane in the world land on our runway. We've expanded. And in this year's budget, we are actually going to be expanding a lot more. We have hundreds of airports within Guyana. We're actually looking to let them international airport. We have an international airport within the city. We're looking at expanding in Region 6 in Berbice, another international airport. So infrastructure is very big in a country such as ours as we to the next level. And that's why if you look at the budget this year, I know your title of the program is budget, is we have designated significant dollars on infrastructure and social services. And those are areas as we build our economy. One of the things we are looking for, or one of the charter out of our office and under the president's leadership, is building global partnerships. You know, we alone cannot do it. We're increasing competitiveness within the country, and those are areas again that excites an investor. And I think you can't wait. If you're not in Guyana or doing your research now, or you're going to be too late. We are moving at a rapid pace. The president has an aggressive economic agenda, putting components in place on the building block, the pillars, bisectors, as we will talk about tonight, are being modernized, as you mentioned, simple things like the airport, modernizing, ready for what Guyana next phase would look like.
And of course, the government has been investing in and constructing major new highways. I wonder if you could talk a little about that, the infrastructural work that can encourage investors to come in.
Yeah, I'll get to that in a second, Vish, but one of the other things that I wanted to end with in terms of just your initial question of our investment climate is our government goal of doing the ease to business approach. We want to make sure that when you come into Guyana or you're in Guyana, the ease of business is there. You know, we have to move up the ladder in doing that. So what we're looking at is regulations across the different sectors. What could we remove? How does the banking system better your company? How do you get your tax ID? How do we increase or decrease the cost of energy? We'll talk about that in a few. All of that are areas where our government is pushing to ensure ease of business is at the rate we are comfortable. And with that, then we can move into some of the other areas. On the road infrastructure, during our campaign and in our manifesto, we have proposed 2,000 miles of new roads across Guyana. Guyana is 83,000 square miles, the size of Great Britain, the UK actually. And we have large untouched land. And as we build out the road network, what that does is open up our country into much agriculture, into ecotourism, into manufacturing areas where we couldn't get to only by air. So our and internally within the cities, and again, I'll get to some of the details, we are expanding. And with infrastructure comes a different type of economic development. And our president has a PhD in urban planning. He understands the macro view of what Guyana should look like and will look 5 years, 10 years from now. And he's putting those components in place. And at the same time, he's modernizing our known industries with funding that will show, and in healthcare, for example, in our budget in 2022, we're looking at building 5+ new hospitals across the country, putting social service in place, make sure that our population, that our people prosperity for our people, services for our people are improved and increased. And again, I look at that in my role sitting in this job as a role, an investor, an outsider looks at if we're taking care of our people, which our president is doing with his One Guyana platform. This is a stable environment to come in and to look at how you can operate and do business in Guyana.
What are some steps government is taking to ease the difficulties, if there are difficulties, in doing business in Guyana? You did mention registration of business and so forth. Any other?
Well, I mean, in all of it, apart from the structural components, we're working on the integrated energy plan. We're looking to move our energy costs down by 50-60%. We have liberalized our telecommunication bill, that where we can bring down the cost of telecommunication. As you know, data and telecommunication is very important to any nation. And so as we liberalize that sector, it improves competition. Data services are expanding. Those are, again, ease of business. A company wants to be in Guyana to understand that they can, get to the wider world. They can export their products. The cost of production becomes less, and all of that fits into the category of what I would consider ease of doing business. And we will continue on this path all the time. I mean, that doesn't mean we fix a regulation today, we don't have to fix it tomorrow. We will continue to ensure. And one of the strong points of our administration, our government administration, is transparency and accountability. Every opportunity goes out for bid. You have an opportunity. There's no way you can come in to me and say, look, I want a contract. How do I get a contract? It is open, it's public, you get to bid on it. And those, again, components that shows a stable economy, shows that we're confident in the business of Guyana. And as we speak, and your audience could be the diaspora, also, we want to attract the diaspora. We understand very well that the knowledge base that our diasporas gain in the wild is very important for Guyana. And I even consider that ease of doing business. How do we integrate back the diaspora? And I tell folks, and I say it publicly, if you can come to Guyana and make the same wage that you're making in New York right now, you don't have to travel 2 subways, you don't have to wake up and put on a winter coat. You can have a beautiful life, very relaxing in Guyana. We got the best weather. Why not? And I can tell you, the salary scale in a lot of jobs are going up. I think the diaspora needs to pay more attention of where they can use their skills and how they can integrate back into our country. I tell folks, your first love. Guyana is your first love. Don't give up on it. Let's figure out how to integrate the diaspora back in our nation. And I want to form that message out, that I believe that we do need the diaspora, and we're doing what it takes to attract them back. Migrant packages have been updated in our last budget in terms of what you can bring back to Guyana duty-free, how you can integrate back into our country. So those, again, are areas where we want to continuously improve, and through measurement, be able to measure that we are doing business the best way.
Any tax holidays for investors? And you did mention duty-free concession, tax exemptions, as well as duty-free concessions for investors and returning Guyanese.
I mean, it all depends on the sectors that we are looking at, and I'll get some specifics on this. But just going back to your last question about the larger infrastructure project in roads, for example, we're starting a road from Region 10, which is Linden area, to Lethem, which is the Brazilian border. We already bridge connecting ourselves to northern Brazil. That road is not just about the road. We are funding the initial road through British funding. Sometime later on, the complete road would be finished. a container in northern Brazil, to get from northern Brazil to water is 56 to 72 hours. You flip that container around the deep water in Guyana, is less than 24 hours. So imagine tens of thousands of 18-wheelers or containers coming through our country with one road that we will connect the entire South America with. And from that, you can actually go all the way to California. We are also connecting Suriname, which is another oil producing nation that has just found oil. We're looking at starting the bridge to Suriname this year. So now you have what I titled the El Dorado corridor. So you're going from French Guyana, Suriname, through Guyana into northern Brazil and connect to the largest Latin America. That alone opens up trade opportunities. So as an investor, when you're looking at Guyana, it's not just about 800,000 people. It's not about our GDP. It's about GDP throughout the corridor, the El Dorado corridor. And then the best part of that is we're part of CARICOM. CARICOM, 5 million plus people. And I'll give you one thing that President Ali talked about today in Belize. CARICOM imports over $5 billion US worth of food every year. Guyana want to reduce that bill, control 25% of that bill by 2025. We have beautiful land to cultivate. We're looking for investors in mega farms. We only cultivate 8+% of 60 that could be cultivated. So if you're an investor looking to set up a mega farm, where would your product go? You don't have to look at getting FDA approval to get a product into the United States of America. Right within our region, as we cut out the barriers of trade, you can get that product into market. Even in we import dairy products, for example. So we're looking for an investor that can come in, or multiple investors can expand our dairy business. We have $35 million US worth of right here. You can sell that product. You don't need to go far. So with logistics, supply chain, connectivity with treaties, bilateral treaties within the region, we are a very good destination for investment in agriculture. So the road build out, the gas to shore pipeline, which again will reduce our energy costs by 50% over the next few years. I mentioned the state-of-the-art medical facilities. The president has proposed, and will start this year, a new city, Silica City, higher ground. We put out an expression of interest about a year plus ago for 2,000 new rooms of hotels. That's starting this year. We'll meet that by 2024. We've got in final stages. They had a new 100 rooms, luxury rooms, beautiful. We're starting, the investors are starting an AC Marriott in Ogle. There's a 4-point Sheraton in Houston. There's a Hyatt Place in Providence. There's a Marriott Courtyard at the airport. There's a Best Western going to start later this year on the seawall. There's a Shore Plus by Best Western already started. So again, the 2,000 rooms that the president asked for is happening in front of us. So we're looking at the expansion of that. The Deepwater Harbor will come next. That's a large $1 billion Amalia Falls project that the vice president is leading. That will bring 165 megawatts of new power. That contract is in final stages. We're bridging the bridge across from Georgetown to West Demerara, the west side. Massive infrastructure project. And as we put those in place, again, if I'm sitting there as an investor looking, what the heck do I come to Guyana and do? You need to fit in one of those sectors: agriculture, tourism, mining, oil, gas sector, any opportunities within that sector.
I was just wondering if you could talk a little more about this proposed secondary city. A lot of it was talked about by the president, and it came up also in the budget debate.
Well, this vision of Dr. Ali has been in place since 2014, 2013, when he was at that point Minister of Housing. We always know that even with climate change, there is need to move out of all your operations within one area, which is Georgetown, the capital. Georgetown is a beautiful city. New technologies will resolve climate change and rising sea waters, I'm sure. But we are expanding so rapidly that the city is packed. So the president is looking to open that new city. A new city would be probably the most modern smart city within the region. It's high tech. We're looking from social services to recreational services, golf courses to hotels, the skyscrapers, the manufacturing. It's a wide area. It's next to the international airport. So, folks coming in won't have to go too far. But at the same time, connecting those two cities, connecting Silicon City and Georgetown, will be 20 minutes. We're proposed a new 4-lane highway that will connect Georgetown with the airport, potentially a rail system. So all of those components become like any metropolitan area, that you can live out in Silicon City and work in Georgetown, or you can live in Georgetown and work in Silicon City. Those are happening. Those are not dream anymore. They're not, ideas. It's practical. We're developers at this point for certain sectors within Silicon City. And, in addition to that, the president has proposed 1,000 new house lots in his first 5 years, 3 houses per year being built around the country. Is no difference. We're going to have probably about 3,000 new homes being built in that area. And again, I'll preach a little bit to the diaspora. If I'm living in Queens or in Toronto or in London, and I'm ready, I'm say 65, I'm going to get my Social Security or what other pension. I'm going to sell my house in Queens maybe for $800,000 US. Why not, instead of move to Florida, you move to Guyana? Build the same 300,000 house. You can live on the water. Imagine our creeks. I tell folks, I've lived in Fort Lauderdale. You can have your boat in Fort Lauderdale. It's got the same water. You go into Silicon City, you got this black water. You can have your boat. But the difference is I can jump out my boat and I can go into the water and I can drink it because it's fresh water. Hoping that the diaspora look at Guyana as a destination of retirement, and at the same time bringing their skill sets to our nation. At Silicon City as an option to move to and to learn about how you can access land in there, build your luxury home in an environment that is safe. As I said, to be a modern city, smart city. And in our budget too, we're putting a lot of money into social service. There's always a question in a developing country about social security, about security and crime and those areas. I mean, our crime rate has been low. Folks read the front page of a newspaper and think it's unsafe. A lot of our crimes are domestic in nature, and which is sad. We do have more domestic crimes than traditional crimes, but we're working at the security sector. We're working in place where you make that decision to come back to Guyana. You're coming back in a safe environment, and you're coming back. If you get sick tomorrow, we've got just announced through an investment. It's going to start probably in another month, a 400 new bed hospital that's being built privately to handle specialty healthcare, and that's a private sector investment happening with it. So as you get there, you want to make sure healthcare security is there. And so we're saying, don't run Guyana, be part of our transition, and instead of moving to Florida, move to Guyana.
So I have a few more questions, but first we'll take a break, and when we come back, I'll ask you the remaining questions I have for you.
Flights to Guyana have never been cheaper. Check out these non-stop direct fares from JFK to Guyana. One way from $150 and round trip from $344. From Guyana to New York, one way from 210 and round trip from 360. These are non-stop direct flights to and from Guyana on American, Caribbean, or JetBlue. These cheap fares will not last, so call Travelspan today. In New York at 718-845-0437. That's 718-845-0437. In Georgetown, call 227-1701. And in Berbice, call 337-4287. All From One Supplier is pleased to announce its online shipping for West Indian and American groceries. Order online at allfromonesupplier.com and with free shipping and deliveries to any part of the United States. Save time and energy to shop for all of your West Indian groceries from the safety of your home or office. We carry West Indian products like curry powders, meats and fish, dashing bush, pepper sauce, sodas, and your favorite snacks. All From One Supplier has it all. All From One Supplier fulfills and ships your order directly to you. So visit All From One Supplier today to start shopping. Or call All From One Supplier at 718-551-3292 to handle all of your West Indian grocery needs. That's All From One Supplier, 718-551-3292. Free shipping, free deliveries, or curbside pickup from allfromonesupplier.com. Make your vacation a memorable one. Enjoy your trip just as if you are at home. Your music, your culture, and your way to have fun with all you can eat and drink at an all-inclusive vacation. You choose the all-inclusive vacation that suits you. July 14th to July 18th is Bollywood on the Beach, plus Indo-Cultural in Punta Cana, Dominican Republic. July 21st to July 25th, Christian Community Week in Punta Cana, Dominican Republic. July 28th to August 1st, Curry Duck Curry Competition in Cancun, Mexico. August 4th to August 8th, Caribbean Throwback Week, Punta Cana, Dominican Republic. And August 11th to August 15th, Soca vs. Indian, Punta Cana, Dominican Republic. Seats are available from New York, Miami, Orlando, Atlanta, Newark, Canada, Trinidad, and Guyana. Meet up with family and friends, and plus make new friends at all these inclusive vacations. Travelspan has your vacations, plus cheap seats to Guyana and Trinidad. Call Travelspan today at 718-845-0437. That's 718-845-0437. In Canada, call 647-557-6200. In Guyana, call 227-1701. And in Trinidad, call 645-1604. Folks, the Nest Restaurant is the place to dine for Guyanese and Caribbean dishes. It is the best restaurant in Queens. The staff is courteous, and Dave, the owner, is always there to welcome you. So for a memorable dining experience, visit the Nest Restaurant located at 12717 101 Avenue, South Richmond Hill. Go and make a reservation today, or takeout. Call 718-847-40. Are you looking for investment opportunities, or retirement, or even to relocate to Florida? Then Orlando is the place for you. Great deals with spacious land are available. Call Shanisa Jabbar for all your realtor needs at 321-217-1556. That's 321-217-1556. Or email her at shanisajabbar@gmail.com.
Yeah, welcome to Globespan 24/7 again. You are watching Globespan 24/7, owned and operated by Mr. Noor Singh. Mr. Devin Bissoon is our techie assistant tonight. We are discussing the budget and investment in Guyana, and our guest tonight is the very distinguished Dr. Peter Ramsaroop, Chief Investment Officer, Chief Executive Officer of Go Invest, Guyana Investment, under the auspices of the President's Office in Guyana. So, Dr. Ramsaroop, I was just wondering if you could talk a little about national projects relating to infrastructure.
Well, as I mentioned earlier, I mean, our national projects are geared towards our sectors. So as we open up new land, for example, build road infrastructure into new lands, then our agriculture sector then is boosted by it. As you know, our agriculture sector is about 27% or so of our GDP. We have close to 20 million hectares of land available for agriculture. So access to these lands is what we're looking for. We're looking at large scale plantation farming, for example. So our poultry industry is there, but because we were importing a lot of our stock feed, the cost of our production was higher. So the president facilitated a large consortium of local business poultry owners and facilitated land. They're now growing hectares of corn, will ultimately bring the cost of our poultry production down. As I mentioned earlier, we're close to the Caribbean. The president said recently, and he today again, agriculture is on a trajectory, a transformative trajectory. And as he puts his initiative to CARICOM to own 25% of CARICOM bill by 2025, that's where our large integrated farms will come in. So investors looking at large-scale farming and cattle rearing, pig rearing, milk plants, value-added products are all available in our infrastructure build-out. You know, agriculture has been stable for decades of Guyana's growth. Even before oil and gas, Guyana was known as an agriculture, as the breadbasket. With our newfound wealth, we are not going down the Dutch disease path. We're modernizing our known industries, and agriculture is one of those industries that we're modernizing. You know, so as we look at expanding the agriculture sector, that then will contribute much more than 27% to our GDP growth over the next decade. And so our national projects, I mentioned earlier, the gas to shore and the Amalia Falls and the whole logistic chain of French Guyana, Suriname, Guyana, and northern Brazil into South America, into CARICOM, all helps then the outcome, the output of a product. And you know, our agency is responsible for export in terms of marketing, and we're looking. We have a pavilion right now in Dubai, in the UAE. We are advertising what Guyana will look like. We are out there. All our missions are being retooled to look at investment opportunities. We're marketing some of these projects. You know, we've got the goal. We're gonna move to a gold refinery as we get cheaper energy. In other areas of manufacturing, whether it's in agriculture and agro-processing, turning that coconut into a valid product, and many byproducts of coconut. We're looking at our sand. We've got the best silica sand in this part of the region that can turn into glass. We export that sand right now to golf courses in North America and around the Caribbean. We export that sand to replace in beaches. So Guyana has some very good raw material products. So as we bring the energy costs down, we then going to revolutionize the manufacturing sector. So I use the Wayne Gretzky quote, you've got to skate to where the puck is going to be, not where it is today. And so investors need to understand, if they catch where Guyana is today, where we will be tomorrow and the next 5 years, the next decade, you join in this bandwagon to be part of Guyana's growth. At 43% GDP growth in 2022, fascinating around the world, right? And in the projected over the years, it's going to be even more. Stable economic environment, leadership with vision, courage, of convictions is what our president has offered the outside world. And one of the things I'm proud of, Dr. Bisram, that happened last year in 2021, our largest investors outside of the oil and gas industry were all local businesses. They led the investment portfolio in Guyana. So a foreign investor can really be comforted that our local investors, our local businesses, our private sector will step up. They will contribute financially. They'll contribute knowledge, structure, form. So a foreign investor is not coming in blindly and go, what do they do? We are pushing joint partnership, joint ventures, consortiums. It's a very environment now for the outside world to pay attention to Guyana, and we want to make sure that our local content law, which was just passed, that our local content and our local businesses do benefit from Guyana growth, and we're putting everything in place to do that. That's why we're pushing for partnership and joint ventures as foreign companies come into.
I was going to ask you about manufacturing, industrialization, and agriculture, but you jumped the gun. Is there anything else you would like to add to those three sectors?
Well, the president, is designated. It's going to happen. Wales development on the West Bank, which where the gas to shore will land. That will become an industrial zone, basically for manufacturing cheaper energy. But say in Region 10, in Linden and other parts of the region, we've got great clay, we've got bauxite. There's many other areas that we will move to in manufacturing as the energy cost comes down within the nation. And it's an integrated energy plan. We understand climate change, we understand fossil fuel, but it's sustaining growth through protecting the environment and defending the environment. So an integrated management, we just saw announced the wind farm that is coming. We have large solar energy being put across the nation. We've got the gas to shore, the fossil fuel, we've got the hydro. So it's an integrated energy plan, and still do not touch our forests. We're net zero emissions. We're the vice president and the president low carbon development strategy, the expanded low carbon development strategy outlines how Guyana will manage in this world that is trying to reduce the climate footprint, and our carbon footprint is significant. So we are putting, if I had to say it right, what developing countries should have done 50 years ago, 100 years ago with climate change, Guyana is doing it as we operate right now. We're sustaining our forests. We're looking at integrated energy approaches, but we also have fossil fuel, we also have oil. How do we balance that approach? And that is what is exciting about when you study our president's vision for Guyana and his leadership. That's what countries should have done 100 years ago. And we are going to prove to the world that our management and our approach to sustaining our environment, developing our nation, ensuring our people's prosperity is at the top of the list. And the president has said that. His measurement of success is not Guyana name out there and 43% growth. His measurement of success is our people benefiting from the prosperity, sharing in the prosperity, and improving the lives of our citizens. And with that vision, again, my job is from an investment standpoint is let that investor know. You got a president that cares for his country, cares to make sure one Guyana, he doesn't discriminate where you live, but whether you voted for him, whether the color of your skin or the texture of your hair. One Guyana platform says development is happening across our nation, and we will continue to promote that environment with some of these projects that we're working on.
I wonder if you could talk a little about agro processing. I know that's not your field, but I'm sure government would be encouraging investors to come and engaged in canning of fruits and vegetables and so forth.
Yeah, I just got a call from a senior diaspora person out in New York just a few minutes before. They're looking to operate an agro-processing facility in Region 3 in Purica. Definitely. I mean, you can sell a pineapple, for $2.50 in Guyana, but you can sell that pineapple can make 5 cans of pineapple that can be exported. Again, with energy costs coming down, those are where the agro-processing will take. You go to Miami Airport, you buy a bag of banana, the dried bananas. That's $4 or $5 US. We've got thousands of tons of fresh fruits and vegetables every day. we move into the drying of those fresh fruit and vegetables, we've got cashews that fall in that we don't have enough use for. How do we then turn that into a value-added agro-processing? Even going back to the coconut example, the coconut has not just the coconut water, you've got the jelly, you've got the fiber, you got the husk. The husk mulch is probably $14 a bag of coconut mulch sells at Home Depot. We've got all that coconut shells thrown away right now. Value-added approach in agro-processing and taking some of our wasted material into a finished product is going to happen and is happening. And with the foundation of cheaper energy, integrated energy approach, I see that industry along with manufacturing exploding. Last year was a foundation building year for Guyana in terms of, our administration taking 2nd of August in 2020. Actually, we won election 2nd of March today, 2 years ago, and moving that needle along into that macroeconomic plan into a plan that can show sustainability over the next. The agro-processing, cheaper energy, manufacturing, all comes into play with the president's plan. So it's no longer a vision. He's operating what we had in our manifesto, and every day you can measure the success of what he is implementing across Guyana.
ICT, I'm sure the government is encouraging ICT. We're going to talk a little about ICT in the budget as well.
Yeah, Guyana is prime location. We are, as I mentioned earlier, 5-6 hours from North American shores, 4 hours from Miami. And in the days outsourcing, a lot of American companies outsource a lot of their work to India, to Philippines. And what COVID has proven to the North American companies is that, wow, they can't travel to Philippines anymore to check on their work. So they're now looking at coming into Guyana. Already in Guyana, so we manage Uber, we manage Amazon, we manage Walmart, many other large 500 companies in the US are all outsourced into Guyana. We're looking to that industry. We're looking 25,000 new seats over the next few years in the ICT arena. So, we're putting billions of dollars into the sector. We, as I mentioned earlier in the program, telecommunication liberalization. So we're looking for large telecommunication providers. We're looking at technology parks, call centers, outsourcing, data centers, all part of the ICT sector. So we have a young population, a working population, very educated coming out of high school. We are much more analytical than a lot of other parts of the world. When somebody graduates high school in Guyana secondary school, I consider that almost equivalent to a 2-year junior college degree in the United States. So we have a very good, dedicated, educated young workforce, and the ICT sector is prime for rapid expansion. And we're putting a lot of emphasis. Dr. Singh out of finance, go invest under the direction of the president, has made this sector one of our priority sectors.
You mentioned the oil sector, and it's a relatively new industry for us. Talk about energy in Guyana, including the oil and gas sectors.
Well, we have 10 billion plus barrels of reserve oil. I think the Exxon CEO, when he was in Guyana 2 weeks ago, said we have about 11% of the world's oil. Per capita, we will be the largest oil producing country, or at least in the second in a few years. We're at 340,000 barrels a day right now. We're going to 500 plus in 2 years and 750 by 2027, and probably close to 1 million right after that. So the trajectory of growth is there. So if you know about oil, you can plot out what we would look like every year from now, what type of funds we will have, how will we spend it, and that's why the president outlines his operational plan and his budget with transparency and accountability. So we have allocated close to, I think, $29 billion this year in the energy sector. We are, as I mentioned, starting the gas to shore pipeline. We've got gas out there that will bring the cost down. We are adding another 35 megawatts of power in other parts of the region, in Linden and Essequibo. And with that, sustainable integrated energy plan, where I use the term, we're protecting and defending the environment. Our energy sector, our energy mix led on the Vice President, Dr. Jagdeo in Guyana, former president, who is known for the low carbon and sustainable growth over the decades he was in office, is ensuring that we meet the goals of the world in climate change. What is our contribution? I think soon you will see an announcement where we are putting our carbon credit on the market. You want to buy carbon credit because you have now exceeded your limit in your negative contributions to the world. We will have carbon credit to sell. And it's very interesting approach. I consider it putting it in a stock market. And what are we going to sell it for? $10 a ton, $20 a ton. And there will be an influx of countries. Norway has already done it, under Dr. Jagdeo, where they paid $250 million for us making sure our forests are sustained. And, we're not cutting the trees. Guyana is very beautiful. We're in the Amazon. And I find that our approach to the environment is second to none. And as an oil producing nation, and as a country with under 1 million people, for us to put that kind of emphasis to ensure that we are also contributing to the world with carbon credit, I think is plausible for Guyana. And kudos to our president and administration in our protection of our environment will always be a leading factor in our nation.
I'm sure there will be opportunities for tourists to come to Guyana. Not everyone in the diaspora or other expatriates would want to come to Guyana to live. What measures are being taken to encourage tourism in Guyana?
Well, tourism is like renewing our dream. Guyana has been voted the #1 eco destination in the world. We are in the top 5 or top 10 for 2021. We've got untouched land. We've got one of the most beautiful waterfalls, close to 800 feet almost of single drop. Some say it's the most single drop in the world. We have Amazon. We've got the bird species. We've got rare views. So we are, and COVID has proven again that folks want now to be much more in the open. So we're going to be developing, we have an expression of interest out right now, that where we are looking for large and small operators in ecotourism. We have areas that we're going to designate for a large operator to build, the sandals type of resort, but in the jungle. So if anybody's interested in that, we have an expression of interest out on the Ministry of Tourism website. We're looking for expansion in golf courses and entertainment complexes. But I would end the tourism part to say that, if you haven't seen what the Amazon look like, and you haven't been in the jungles of South America, what both the Barbados Prime Minister and our President, Dr. Irfan Ali, has agreed to is a joint tourism product. So go on to spend 3-4 days on the white sand and the blue water, and then pop over to Guyana, less than an hour flight, get your stamp in your passport, and you're in the jungles of South America. You're in the Amazon. What more in your 5 days, 7-day vacation? So we are putting the product. It's going to be something that excites the Europeans and the Americans and just the visitors to the region. And again, it's an experience that I think folks that are adventurous, looking for, not the Las Vegas of the world because of the crowds, Guyana is the place to come to. And we will continue to build out our infrastructure to ensure that you are welcome and you have an enjoyable time in our nation.
I'd like to end by asking you, why should anyone come to Guyana to invest?
Say that again.
Why should anyone come to Guyana to invest when they would probably have opportunities elsewhere in the region or in South America or elsewhere? Why Guyana?
Why Guyana? The fact is, we have the largest economic growth in the world. So if you're a money man, you're an investor, money makes money, right? You look at where you can make the most money, and you look at where our future is. I mean, I use the term our future is arrived. We're not here to predict anymore what Guyana will look like or what Guyana's dream is. We're making the arrangements right now because it's already arrived. So you have to be here. Growth, trajectory growth is the highest. We've got natural resources. The world wants our natural resources. We need to take our natural resources to finished products, the bauxite to alumina, the sand to glass, the gold to the bar, the agriculture to value-added products, and I can go on and on. What the opportunities that exist as an entrepreneur, as an investor. Again, you have the markets. You're dealing with northern Brazil, Guyana, Suriname, French Guyana, CARICOM, 5 million plus people, multiple countries. You've got treaties that we have, bilateral treaties. We've got double taxation treaties. We've got one best fiscal incentive packages in the region. A company could be in Guyana and be able to repatriate all the profits with no penalty. There are many components. You have fiscal incentives in manufacturing and agriculture and tourism. Come to Guyana. Some of those things will be tax-free. So you get a boost. Government becomes a partner. We're saying we believe that you can succeed. So we will remove $2 million worth of taxes on your equipment. So you have an opportunity to have your ROI at a much faster. We see the value because we see the value in you working with our local businesses, employing our population. So again, it's a very friendly business government. And leave that your question, why Guyana? Invest. We are a government that believes in accountability, transparency. We believe in openness. We believe in a business-friendly environment. We are going to continue to look at our tax systems over the years to reduce taxes. We will continue to ease of business, much better off in doing business in Guyana. And we've got a president that is no other president. Visionary, measurable, action, energetic, and is delivering on his commitments, not promises, his commitments to our people. And we're excited what Guyana is today and what it will look like tomorrow. Join with us. Be part of our growth, and you're welcome.
With that, I want to thank you very much for taking your time out to join us tonight. And as you mentioned earlier, March 2nd, today is the second anniversary since the attempt to rig Guyana's election. And several individuals, yourself, including myself and so many others, joined in a struggle, a five months unrelenting struggle to make sure that the outcome of the election reflected the will of the population. International observers, including those from CARICOM, the OAS, the United Nations, Carter Center, and so many observer groups, all certified that the election was free and fair and declared the present government of Dr. Irfan Ali as the legitimate government of Guyana. I thank you again, Dr. Peter Ramsaroop, for taking your time and appearing on our program tonight. You have been watching Globespan 24x7, owned and operated by Mr. Nohar Singh, with Devin Bissoon as our techie operator. I'm your host, moderator for tonight, Vishnu Bisram. Thank you. Good night.